All right, so I've got a few more little updates and bits of analysis for you guys regarding the David situation. The internet detectives are still working, even though the evidence is kind of, running dry, and the backstory information we kind of seen everything at this point. But there's still a lot of talk going on. There's still a lot of confirmation or denials of certain pieces of evidence. And I want to just go over some of this stuff with you guys today for full disclosure, because realistically, this far, we have just been trying to cover everything and just keep you guys up to date with any new developments, any new conversations that have been going on around this case. And what's really interesting is there's been some really interesting conversations that have been going around on the subreddit Celeste Rivas Hernandez, essentially talking about people trying to, all the way back when the song released in 2024, there was this song, really a skit on one of David's projects called You Left Me First. And it's been, it's been widely believed that the voice on the skit is actually Celeste herself. And what's really interesting is somebody's resurfaced these comments and analysis all the way back from 2024 when the skit actually dropped in the David subreddit, with people trying to work out who this was in the call and who actually was being sampled on the track. So these are some of those comments. I'll take a look now. It says, "Who's the voice at the end of You Left Me First?" Someone commented, and this is 152 days ago, "Most likely his ex-girlfriend. They were together for a good while in 2024 until she went off the grid and deleted all her socials. Update for my replies, Yewoohoo7 was indeed Celeste, and my first few replies were wrong. Rest in peace, Celeste Rivas Hernandez." So someone responded to them at the time saying, "I thought it might have been, but that interlude sounded really, really well recorded, almost like it was in a studio. So I don't know if it was just a random video of them or if he got a random girl to record the lines with him." And this person says, "Just seen in an interview, he said it was a real conversation, but he had to re-record it because of copyright stuff and having someone else's voice in a song. So yeah, you're right, it was in the studio." And people keep going back and forth. And more people have flocked back to this post and added more up-to-date comments. It says, "I know the news about Celeste, but the girl I'm talking about isn't her." A comment is deleted. And this same person says, "The person it was based off, but again, back to my first comment, it truly could be about Celeste, as he never actually confirmed who it was about, but the girl I'm originally talking about isn't her." This person says, "Now this is questionable." Saying, "Nah, most likely not. She would always repost stuff about being a drug addict and being a bad person in relationships. She stayed out of the spotlight and never showed her face when they were together anyway, so I assume the breakup just took a huge toll on her well-being and she decided to quit socials." And then it says, "So did this girlfriend happen to be the girl Celeste that went missing in 2024 that they found in his trunk?" And they say, "No, again, most likely a different girl. Her username on Instagram was Yewoohoo7 or something, while Celeste has a different handle. I've spoken to a few people and they've all said that those are two separate people." And then somebody is commenting, we already saw that, and someone said, "I'm pretty sure they were the same person. She changed from Yewoohoo7 to Hello Kitty Life Girl. She also had a Hello Kitty necklace when she went missing, RIP Celeste." And it says, "Yeah, I found that out a couple hours ago. It's also crazy. May she rest in peace and get the justice she deserves." And then this person asked, "Why did you delete your comment? You said she went off the grid in 2024, that she deleted all her social media. That's probably how long?" And then I assume they go on to say something about her being missing during that time. And then people are saying there's confusion here because people speculate they had a fake breakup. This has been talked about many times thus far. This was around the time when David probably had her scrub all of her social media accounts. Furthermore, Celeste had two, maybe even more Discord handles. One was Celeste and the other was indeed Yewoohoo7. When they had speculated fake breakups, it's likely when Herrera entered the scene and the cover-up began. And people are saying this is kind of huge. And the guy says, "I don't find evidence often, but when I do, it's medium good." People are saying, "Make a screen recording of this, send it to law enforcement." And people are saying there's a few songs with her voice. She's even mentioned that they make a song together. I don't remember where I saw the clip of her saying that, though. I've heard her voice a few times and listened to that song. Definitely her. People saying, "Are they referring to the Filipina Celeste?" They're saying no, but it seems like something changed in 2024 and he got serious about hiding her from everyone. That's why we don't have evidence of her being alive in 2025, aside from the purse on the couch in a TikTok edit, maybe the LAPD raid. And it says, "When did David start gaining traction in his career? Could it have been that?" Genuinely asking because I hadn't heard of him, but people are pointing out that he was viral in 2022. Let's see what this looks like. It gets interesting. It says, "Maybe he was planning to realize his fantasy. Anyway, can someone verify this post and if the posters are legit?" And the original poster said, I left the poster's username and the title of the thread in so that people could independently verify the screenshots are real. Also, I took the screenshots last Friday, so they're 6 days older than they appear in the screenshot. Please don't contact this user or invade their privacy. The date should be enough. And people are saying, well, you can edit comments, so it could be trolling, but it's a big fine if it wasn't edited. And the guy denies it. He says, I can verify they didn't edit these comments. Initially, I found this thread the day of or the day after Celeste was identified. I thought that a lot of people had also seen it, and I kept referencing the 2024 breakup and going off the grid, thinking everybody else had seen it. I quickly realized that was not the case, because nobody seemed to know what I was talking about. So I looked for it, but it took me a while to find because I couldn't remember what the thread was about. And there were hundreds of threads and thousands of comments about Celeste at that point, but it got buried. But then I found it last Friday after promising someone I would find it, and then I got busy at work, and here we are. I'll go through my comment history and find some of the comments I made referencing this weeks ago, otherwise I can't prove it, but that's what happened. People are saying, here we go. That's 15 days ago is when I found this. And this is like a whole interesting breakdown of what they thought about the situation. Okay, it says, actually, flip, all right? The whole interview is bananas. Here's some highlights. He's asked about a song called Invisible String, which is a dialogue between him and a girl where she nags him about never holding her hand anymore. Then he asks her why she thinks they met, and she says they'll be connected forever, even after they die. In the interview, he says that this was a real recording from a real conversation he had with a girl, but he had to re-record it for copyright purposes. In another interview, he says, I talk about that connection in a conversation with another person, and at the end, she says, don't leave me. The irony of that situation is she ends up leaving anyway. And it says, 2, here's a thread from the David subreddit where someone asked who's the voice on the You Left Me First song, where his fans theorized that the voice probably belongs to his ex-girlfriend who went off the grid when they broke up in 2024. Celeste went missing in 2024, and the end of You Left Me First audio, you hear a woman who sounds identical to the woman speaking in Invisible String. She's apologizing and telling him she can't believe how selfish she was and how she messed everything up, but she loves him. And then 3, he's asked about his relationships, and he claims that at the time he wrote Romantic Homicide, he didn't have a girlfriend and that he'd never even experienced a breakup. And it says, I low-key wish I didn't say that. I manifested it into my own life. When I did, it was kind of cool to kind of be saying that in hindsight. Then I prophetically spoke that over my own life, and I got to experience it firsthand. It's so crazy because then once you actually start to deal with that and you're living things that you wanted to live, you sometimes forget that you said you wanted it, and you're asking all those questions like, why is this happening to me? Then you got to take a second and be like, wait, I asked for this. It's one of those things where it's like, I got to be grateful for the experience I prayed for, and I can't be approaching the doors that I open for myself with malice. That experience made me make this great album, so I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to understand myself more and my own emotions and taking the steps to continue moving forward, but I'm never getting into another relationship again, I can tell you that. And it says, it quotes lyrics from Romantic Homicide. Basically, the online sleuths, is seemingly convinced that that was Celeste that he was talking about, that Yewu, who is indeed Celeste, and that song, includes her audio, and that David actually did, in a very coded and ambiguous way, did speak on this in an interview about this being a real relationship, and the girl from the audio being a girl that he was in a relationship. So, people are saying this is huge. I think this is interesting because it almost brings that real life connection between David and Celeste into the world. I think what's really been difficult with people kind of understanding and like managing to keep their heads around this case is that like, we've got all of these dark, twisted songs that seem to refer to things that could be interpreted as having something to do with Celeste, the white roses, the white shirt covered in blood, all of the lookalikes of her in the music videos. But it's been really hard, like even with that leaked song Celeste, where he's calling her out by name and it's like a love song about her, it really kind of is like very ambiguous. It's very loose. It's very kind of hard to connect these things together. And I think what's really interesting and valuable about this update is that it seems to actually make that real world, real life connection between David's music, his interviews, these things that he's clearly very smart and ambiguous about when he talks about in his interviews, but they're connecting this to that real life voice audio that many people are convinced is Celeste. And I think really like a lot of people are speculating that that might have been the case, but since that audio of Celeste actually wiling out on her neighbors and having a big argument in the street came out, I think a lot of people are beginning to sort of think, well, okay, we've heard her voice now, all right? We can, it's not forensic analysis, but we can listen to our ears and we can listen to that skit and we can say, that sounds like her. And if that's actually her, this minor that we've identified, that he's then in interviews talking about, this was a breakup, and the voice was somebody that I was actually speaking to. It was a real conversation, but we re-recorded it. It really does make that real world, real life connection between David and Celeste, and it's really not a good look. All right, it's really not a great look for this case, for his connection to her, for any plausible deniability that he might have had, and identifying her usernames and everything like that. It is pretty damning. And what's also interesting is there's been kind of more discoveries and more deep diving of some of these accounts that allegedly belong to Celeste, and particularly that YayWoohoo7 account. Okay, people have been putting together even more images that were posted by this account. And, it was the TikTok and Instagram, and these are screenshots of a lot of posts from this YayWoohoo account with dates. And what's really interesting is we're seeing even more kind of like, very suspect imagery, right? We've got David here being hugged by a mystery woman. They've got their face covered, but they've got their hands wrapped around his waist with the caption, "I love you, bae," on this YayWoohoo7 or this YayWoohoo TikTok account. People have screenshotted this. They're basically saying, look, we documented this. It's him sort of kissing on somebody. Now, what's interesting here is it kind of looks like straight hair, which actually, Celeste wasn't really known to have, but who knows, right? Who knows? It's, I love you. This YayWoohoo account is posting it. Maybe this is somebody else, but again, it appears to be coming from that actual account, and these are essentially being posted with dates, or at least dates that the screenshots happened. 10th of. Is that 10th of July, 2024? I'm not going to lie, this doesn't look like her, but maybe it's a friend. Maybe they're all in the car traveling around together and she's reposting it. But, that is David, got the signature star sticker on his head, and this account is posting these things. And this image was a big one, so let's see if there's any. You can't really see a sleeve or anything in these. But, this image was a big one. This allegedly is, an engagement ring. That's the ring finger. Somebody, Hello Kitty Life Girl, which everybody is saying is Celeste's account, out for some smoothies or some drinks with David, and showing off an engagement ring. And, there's all these rumors, people saying, yeah, he was waiting until she was 18 to get married. It's really, it's not a good look. It's making this real life, real world connection. And, you even see this, the Hello Kitty phone case, just these little details, a Hello Kitty heart there. What's weird is this is just a straight up raw screenshot, rather than an actual TikTok post. But people are digging up all these things. They're connecting him. Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't notice that. I see people talking about this. So I just noticed people in the comments that noticed on, I think, this picture that this is a massive hickey on his neck. Which, if you don't know, that's when you're getting busy with your girl and she sucks on your neck until you get these like blood kind of blisters there. It's like that's like some real high school first love type stuff, man. And to see him, at his big age with a hickey on his neck is interesting, and people have been noticing that. People did also notice the girl's hair looks so straight. I wonder if it's Celeste or another girl he was toying with. Also, the girl is wearing long eyelashes and has way too much light skin to be compared with Celeste. Says she had red curly hair and lashes in one of the photos with him. As for her skin, she probably looks different in the sunlight, depending on whether she has a tan. Having girly hair myself, the straight hair, I think I meant to say curly. The red hair looks like someone with curly hair that straightened it. Now, look, okay, people are trying to point out the difference in the complexion, with the Latina skin tone, how that means. What's with every social media page that Celeste has being private? People are wondering if he was controlling her. If she wasn't this private, we could have found so many clues. Her accounts are either deleted or private. But people are really trying to pull up everything they possibly can. Now, this is interesting. It says Celeste did have red hair at one point, and women can straighten their hair. Skin tone checks out with other videos. People are saying, can you remove the emojis? You can see her tattoo on the finger in the wedding ring pic. Pretty sure it's been clocked. There's a lot of stuff that some of this stuff is circulated already, but essentially, people have just poured over the social media history. They're saying you can see the tattoo on her finger. You can't see it too well, but I guess, is that the Shush tattoo or the David tattoo? But yeah, so people are noticing all kinds of new connections. They're connecting that skit to David's actual album and to these actual pictures. And it just continues to build this very damning picture. So yeah, I mean, there's still more stuff going around. I'm seeing more people defending David. I'm seeing that, the Discord, a new Discord that looks at David leaks is getting taken down. The last thing that I want to show you that I thought was interesting, okay, is, and I don't know how serious this actually is, But people are posting this, legit or fake. A jeweler claims that he saw David with Celeste and she was high at the time. He said this was uploaded like a day or two after she was identified. I'm not sure if I can believe it, but the comments are telling the guy to go to the police if it's real. Hopefully he did. If so, it just makes it seem like he may have given her drugs. I'd still be inclined to believe it, even if this guy's a clout chaser because she was a child. But what do you guys think? So if we pull this up, let's see what the dude was saying.
You may know, a body was recently found dismembered in a Tesla belonging to David, a popular singer. Today, the body was identified as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Right when the picture went public of Celeste, I instantly recognized her from 2024 in April when her and David came together to a jewelry shop I used to work at. I remember this moment so vividly because when they came in, there was something off about Celeste. She was very high, and she was with David, who I recognize because he's a popular singer, but she was very obviously younger than him, and she was very out of it. I was helping her out with jewelry, and she was all over the place. So that situation really stuck in my brain, and I really remembered her face. So when her picture was released to the public, I instantly recognized her as the girl that was with David. And the fact that she was found in his trunk, dismembered, is just unbelievably sad and horrific, and my heart just goes out to the family and her friends and everybody who's affected by her death. But there is a lot of questions around this and a lot of unanswered questions, so please find answers.
So unfortunately, it is likely that this helps David. It's an interesting fact. I think that it does add more fuel to this fire on the theory that, maybe he was controlling her. Maybe he was, allowing her to use substances. Maybe he was, potentially using that as a way to control her behavior. But ultimately, if the toxicology report comes back and she had any kind of, drugs or substances in her system, who knows? An argument could be made that maybe she overdosed, maybe she was taking drugs by her own free will, even though she's a child and she can't really sign up for those things. If she was out getting her hands on alcohol through her own devices and consuming it to excess, who knows what could have happened? So, it does. Things like this do actually work in David's defense. Whether or not you're happy about that is another question. But just more and more evidence is coming out to link David to this situation, and it just keeps looking worse and worse. But as I covered in my last video, there's still been no arrest, there's still been no update, and the LAPD are being very ambiguous about this thing. And if more information comes out, if the toxicology report does say that there was a high amount of drugs in her system, that might be the perfect way for David to be able to clear his name and beat this. It would really surprise me, but this whole case has been very surprising. So stranger things have happened, and we're just going to have to stay tuned for any updates. So yeah, that was just a quick little update, just a few new things that surfaced that I thought were fascinating, but there really is very little new stuff to go on at this stage. So I'm going to go make another video about another topic, and I'll keep you guys posted if anything else happens related to this. Appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.